Hi, welcome back to our YouTube channel Zero Analyst. This is the day 4 of our 30 days Python series. Today we're going to learn lists, tuples and sets in Python. So let's start with the definitions. A list is a mutable, changeable sequence of items. List can contain elements of different data types including others list. So that means a list can contain others list as well. It can contain different types of data types. Now the most important part is that it is mutable. That means you can change the value. Once you store the data, you can change the value. And lists are entered inside the square brackets. So let's first create a list and let's understand with an example. So I'm going to say that I'm going to create a list called movies, and inside the movies I'm going to store 5 or 6 movies name. So if you want to create an empty list, you can simply say that any name, any variable name, and you can define simple just like square brackets. So if you just run it, now this name that you see, this is a list. If you want to check, you can see this is showing as a list. If you want to check the data types, you need to say just write types, and inside the type you can put your variable name. So you can see this is showing as a list, but this is an empty list. This list doesn't have anything, correct? So let's create a list with some values. So let's say I'm going to add 5 movies name here. So I'm going to say Spider-Man is one of the film, and I would say Joker, and I'm going to say Lucy, and I'm going to say Titanic, and maybe Inception. Okay, so these are some films. Let's store this inside this list. Okay, now if you see type is still the same. If you want to see this film, so I can just write print of movies, and it's going to give me the data, right? So in the list you can see I have now first 5 films name. Now in the list I have 5 films name. You can see these are the 5 films name, right? Now let's see if we can store different types of data. So I will just add, instead of like just the film name, I'm going to add some different values. So let's say I'm going to add maybe a number called 112, and I'm going to add a float number, so that's going to be 3.55. okay, this is the float number. I'm going to add a boolean value, that's going to be true. Okay, so you see we have entered string. So this is a string, this is a int, this is a float, and this is a boolean. So we have entered 4 different types of values inside this list. Okay, now let's see if you can get the results. Yes, you can see we are getting the results right now. We have all different data in the list. Okay, so that means inside the list you can add different types of data. Now even you can add a list as well inside it, right? You can add another list as well inside it, so we will see that later on. Now let's see some list functions that we have. So we have indexing, which is called dot indexing. We have slicing, we have append, we have remove, we have pop, we have sort. Okay, so let's go ahead and see one by one functions. Let's see what are the operations that you can perform in a list. So let's go ahead and say that I want to first of all find, let's say, indexing of specific, let's say this Joker. Okay, so for the Joker I need to find the indexing. Okay, now one thing I forgot to add, list are indexed. Okay, so that means list are indexed. So that means the first one is going to consider as 0, and this one is going to consider 1, and then 2, then 3, and so on. And this side, if you see from this side, it's going to be -1, -2, -3. Same concept which is covered yesterday's video. Now if you have not gone through the day 3 of Python video, so make sure to go through the day 3 of Python video, because otherwise you may not understand few concepts. Alright, so now let's go ahead and see indexing of this Joker. Let's say we want to see the indexing of Joker, so I can just go ahead and say add a code cell here, and I can say movies, and here I would just say dot. So as soon as you add dot after a list, you will see all the different functions that you can perform. Okay, so we will see one by one function, whatever the functions that is useful and whatever the functions that are important, we will learn those functions. Again, you don't have to learn everything, but we will learn the functions which are really useful. So after a list, you just need to add a dot, and you will see all the available functions. Okay, so copy is going to copy a list to another list, clear, and we have count. So clear is going to delete everything, but it's going to keep the list. Okay, we have remove, we will see, we have sorting, we will see. Okay, now let's first see this first function, which is called dot indexing. Okay, if you just write index, now we will see the definitions regarding it. So if you just press this question mark after this, run it, you see the index. It says return the first index, first value index. So basically, if there is a, let's say which is maybe if there's a Joker, and this is going to return the first Joker index. Okay, now if we may have multiple Joker, so it's going to only return the index of the first Joker. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we can use it. So you can see it start from 0 index. It start from, this is the 0 index, it goes up to this level. Okay, we even cannot count it, like what is this number. It's a very big number. You can see that means this many records you can store in a list. Now this is it. So the way we access it, if in case you want to see the index, so see now it is asking for any values. So here we just need to add a value. So I would say that I want to find maybe joker, okay, index. Let's print it. You see the joker index is showing 4, so let's verify it. So the first index is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, so that is correct. Now we can see the index for joker is 4. Even if you want to cross verify it, so you can write a code here and you can say movies of 4, so that is going to give you joker, and I can see I'm getting joker, right? So this is how we have verified that yes, it is returning the correct index, okay, because you can, based on the index, you can access the element based on simple this approach, right? So this is fine. Now this is how you have seen how indexing work. Now let's see slicing. Okay, now here you see I'm getting 4. Let's say I want to access from this joker till here, okay? So I have two options. I can go ahead and say I want to start with 4, so that's going to be 4. Now the indexing is going to be, see the way, if you want to understand slicing, so we can just say slice, okay. Now way you do the slicing is the same the way you do with a string, okay. So we can go ahead and say movies, and inside this bracket we just need to enter the starting index, okay, and starting index and dot end index, okay. So here you will have starting index, here you will have the end index. So end index is not included, so one index before the end index value is going to be included, okay, the same way we do in the string index which we have learned yesterday. So let's go ahead and see. Now I want to access from this joker to this inception, so I have two way. I can use a negative indexing, I can use a positive indexing. Python accept both level indexing, okay. So I would just go ahead and say here what I need is that this index, this joker index, so I already know this index is 4, so 0 1 2 3 4, okay. So this one I'm just going to enter 4. So let's first use the positive index, then I'm going to use a negative index. Now this is 4, then this is 5, this is 6, this is 7, right? So I can just use a 7, but if I use a 7, it is going to print this Titanic till Titanic, because this last index is not included, okay. Let me just show you. You see it is printing till Titanic, so I'm getting 3 objects, so first one, second one, third one, right? So if I need this inception, so I would need to just say +1, okay, because the last index is not included, so I would use +1. Now if you see I am getting all these 4 index, right? So for all these 4 index I can store in a another list called new film, okay. So this is a list. If I just now execute it, it's going to create a variable called new film. Inside the new film I have this 4 film name, okay. So now let's go ahead and see the next functions, okay. Now you have seen how to use a slice, right? Now if you want to get it the same value with negative index, so we can do that. For the negative index, let's say we want this joker, so it's going to be -1 -2 -3 -4. So the starting index is included, so we would use -4 -1 -2 -3 -4. And the end index, it's optional. If you define it, that's good. If you don't define it, it's going to be like this index, right? So we can just leave it empty. So this is going to give us the last index, okay. So you can see I'm getting the same result using the negative indexing, okay. Let's go ahead and see the next function, that is going to be append, okay. So it's append, not append. Let's say I want to add a new film over here, that's going to be spider. I want to add it now into this variable. So for that I can use append. So what append function does, let's for see, right? So we can just go ahead and say new film and dot append, okay. Let's see the explanations regarding this append. So it says a question mark. You can see that it says append object to the end of the list. So whatever the list we have, it is going to add an object at the end, okay. For that you just need to say this parenthesis, and you can see it accept any different type of object. Now you can give any different type of data. So here I want to add a film called Spider-Man, okay. So let's see if it's going to append the values or not. Same time I want to print this result, which is called new film, okay. Now we can see it has inserted this value, which is Spider-Man at the end, okay. So this is what this append function does, okay. Now if you execute it again, it has added one more time. If you want to add one more value, maybe this time we want to add 250, okay, 250, and you can see now it has added 250, okay. So this is how this append function is useful. But what you need to remember, this append function is going to add the value at the end of your list, okay. So that is it. Now let's see the next function, that's going to be a remove, okay. So using the remove, you can remove specific data from your list, but you need to define what you want to remove, okay. and we have pop. So using pop, it is automatically going to remove the last value from your list, the last object. Okay, so we'll see both the options. So let's say I would go ahead and say that I want to remove this 250. Okay, so for that I can just give my variable name, which is called new film, which is a list dot, and you just need to say remove. Okay, let's see the help regarding remove. If you see it, it says remove the first occurrence of a value. So you need to give the value here. Okay, you can see it here, it is accepting values, so you need to give the values, so it is going to remove the values. Okay, very simple. So we can just go ahead and say what you want to remove is 250. Okay, now after removing it, I'm just going to print this new film to see. You see now this 250 is gone. Earlier it was here, now it is gone. Okay, so this is how this remove function is useful. What you need to remember is that using this remove functions, you need to give the value, right? If it's a, I mean, whatever the object, you need to give the object here. It accepts all type of different types of object. It can be any data types, you can use it inside this remove. Okay, so we have seen how to use remove functions. Now let's see this pop, right? So let's see the pop functions, what this pop function does. So if you just say new film, let's see the definitions regarding pop. So I would say pop. So it simply pop out the last elements. Okay, so you see remove and a return item index default last. By default it is going to remove the last item from your list. And let's say I want to print this new film. Okay, you can see that it has removed one Spider-Man. I had two Spider-Man, it has removed one. If I just execute it again, it has also removed one more. Okay, you can see it here. Now I'm left with all this 4 name. Okay, so this is what this pop function does. It return the last element, and using remove you can define which element you want to remove simply by giving this the element a name or object name. Okay, the object itself. And using pop, you don't have to give any elements. By default it's going to remove the last elements from your list. Now let's see the next, which is called sorting. Let's see how this sorting works. So for sorting, I can use on this data set, I can create a new list as well, which I'm going to do. And let me first sort this based on this. Okay, so I'm going to say dot sort. Now sort is very useful. If you want to see the definitions, you can say question mark, and we can assess the sort the list in ascending order and return none. Okay, now if you see, it accept key and this reverse false. Okay, now by default this reverse is false, and by default this key is none. That means you can sort by specific key, so you can give the key here. And this reverse false, by default it is false. If you want to sort in descending, then you need to give this reverse as a true. We will see both example with example. Okay, so I would first go ahead and sort simple without giving any parameters. Okay, so now it's going to sort ascending based on the A. So any name that start with A will come first. Okay, alphabetically it's going to sort. Now let's see this film. Oops, let's see this film, which is going to be new film. Now you see I comes first, so I is coming here, then Joker, then Lucy, then Titanic. If I want to sort this in descending, so that means Z will come first. So here I can simply give my, which is called reverse and true. Okay, so reverse true is going to sort it in descending. So now I would have Titanic first. Okay, let's see. You see now I have this Titanic first. Okay, let me show you with an example. Let's say I'm going to store something called my fave number. Okay, and I would store some number called 2 5 8 1. Okay, 6, and let's say 0. Okay, so these are some number that I have stored inside this list called my fave. If you want to see it is kind of stored this way. Okay, if you want to see the type, so you can say simply type of this, which is going to give us a list. Okay, you can see the type is list. Now what I want to do is that I want to sort this data. Okay, I want to sort this data in ascending. So sort ascending, and I want to sort this data in descending. Both the way I would print the result, sort in descending. Okay, so let's see. If I want to sort this in ascending, I simply need to type my name, which is going to be this, and I would just comment out this dot, and it types sort. Okay, now if I need ascending, I don't have to do anything. I would just execute this query, and at the end I want to print the result. So I would simply go ahead and say my favorite number. So you can see now the data is sorted ascending. See, earlier it was not sorted, right? Now you can see it is sorted ascending. Okay, let's say now I want to sort in descending. So what I need to do is that I can simply copy paste it from here to here, and here I can go ahead and say that reverse equals true. Okay, so now it will be printed in descending orders, the bigger number will come first. Okay, so you can see here it has sorted that this list in descending orders. So this is how we can sort using this simple sort functions. Okay, now these are the only important functions which we have in list. There are so many other functions are there. As soon as we go ahead, we will see some more functions. Like if you just type new fill, which is my list name, you can see this clear. Okay, if you want to see this clear explanations, we can just give question mark, and you can say remove all elements from the list. Okay, and it is going to left out this list blank. Okay, let me just check this. So it doesn't take any argument, so you just need to say this variable name, which is list, and the clear. Okay, if we just now run it, you see this has no elements at the moment, which is showing as an empty list. Okay, so this clear function does. If you want to see some more functions, just give this dot, and you can see we have checked append. We can do copy as well, which is going to do a shallow copy. We may cover this in the future. This is something called insert. Okay, pop, remove, reverse, and yeah, these are the main built-in list functions. Okay, so let's now see the tuples. Okay, now let's first understand what is tuple. Let's see the definitions regarding tuples. Now if you see, a tuple is a immutable, which means you cannot change it. You cannot change the elements of a tuple. Tuples are entered inside this parenthesis. Lists are entered inside this square bracket. If you see the tuples, they are entered inside this parenthesis. Okay, and they are not changeable. That means you cannot change a tuple. Sequence of item. Okay, again you can add multiple different types of item. Once created elements in tuple, you cannot modify it. Okay, again in tuple also you can store different types of data, same as like list. So we will see the same example with a list. Let's say I'm just going to copy this all the name, okay, of the film, and I'm going to add in using a tuple. Let's first create a tuple here. Okay, so let's go ahead and say this. I'm going to create a tuple here. So I would say movies t. Okay, so that means tuple. Now I need to, if in case I want to create a tuple, I need to put inside this parenthesis, and if I just now check this movies t, so you will see the data, which you can see it here, but now you can see the data inside this parenthesis. If you want to see the type, you can click here and you can see its type is showing as a tuples. If you want to kind of print it, we can say type, and we can say type this movies t. You can see the type is showing as a tuples. So this is how you can check the type. Now this is also, tuples are also indexed. If you see, this is also indexed. If you want to see the index of, let's say I want to see the index of this joker, so it's going to be 0. So I can simply say movies of t and dot indexed. Okay, and I would just need to give my value, which is called this element, and if you see the index, it's showing 0. If I want to see the index of, let's say Spider-Man, so I can give Spider-Man here. Okay, so this index is 4. If you want to get the specific records, let's say from here to here, so we can use slicing. So slicing also works in tuples, so we can go ahead and say slicing in tuples. Now let's go ahead and say movies t, and inside it let's do a slicing. So we want starting with this, right? So let's use a negative indexing. So we want starting from this, that's going to be -3. So we would say here -3, and we want till here, which is going to be Spider-Man, so it's going to be empty, because by default it's going to consider empty is the last element. So you can see it here. So let's say we want to get this lucky, from this lucky to this inceptions. Now you can write in the comment like what is going to be the syntax in this tuple, if in case we want this lucky to inception using this slicing in tuple. Okay, now one thing I missed in tuples, let's see that. So we would see that we want to change the elements in a list. Okay, let's see the list first. Let's see, we have this data in the new film. Okay, I'm just going to again create. Okay, let me just go ahead and kind of, let me go ahead and create this again. So let's go ahead and see the movies again, the list. Okay, so I would just use it here, movies. Let's see, we have this list, right? So you can see in the movies I have Spider-Man 122 and all this data. Okay, let's say I want to change this Spider-Man that I have, I want to change this data to something else. Maybe I want to change it to a number called 10. Okay, so for that you just need to first access this data. To access this data, you can use simply indexing. So we can go ahead and say we need 0. So movies of 0, that's going to be Spider-Man, right? You can see that's a Spider-Man. Now this one I want to save it called 10. Okay, so now you can see if you just print this film, you see if I just print this movies, I have 10 instead of Spider-Man. If I want to change this true to something else, I can do that. So I would just go ahead and say that what I need is this movies of this true. So for true, the index is going to be 1 2 3 4. So that's going to be, I mean, 0 1 2 3. So I would say 3 equals, let's say I want to this time store false. Okay, so now this is a boolean data, so that's the reason I'm not entering inside this string, inside the single quotes. I want to print the data after all. You see now true has changed to false. Okay, this is what we can do in list, because list is, you know, mutable. Like list, you can change elements in a list after creating it. But when you talk about tuples, tuple you cannot change the element once you create it, because it's a immutable. Okay, which is unchangeable. You can see it here. So let's say we have a tuple now which is called movies a t. Let's see, I want to change this joker to something. Okay, let's see if I can do it or not. So I can just go and say movies of 0, I get a joker. You can see it here. I want to change it with maybe 10. Okay, let's see what I get. You can see tuple object does not support item assignment. That means you cannot change once you create it. Okay, so that is the difference between the list and tuples. Now one more thing we have, which is called typecasting. So let's see the typecasting before we see the set. Okay, now we have two variable. One is called movies t, which is if you see, this is a tuples, and we have movies which is a list. Okay, so the movies is list and this movies t is a tuple. Now let's go ahead and see create a list, and then we will try to change the list into tuples. Let's see if we can do that. So I would just go ahead and say my list, list, and here I'm going to just store some name which is going to be data engineering, data analyst. Okay, and I'm going to change call DevOps. Okay, and I'm going to say ML engineering. Okay, and I'm going to say maybe cloud engineering. Yeah, so here till here. Okay, now if you see, this is going to be a list, right? If I just show you, it's a list, right? Now you can even verify it. You can simply just click on it, or you can just drag your mouse on it. It's going to give you, it's a variable, and inside the variable I have list. Inside the list I have a string. So that means this variable data type is a list. If you want to check, you can simply say again type of this list, and that is going to give you list. You can see it is list here. Now what I want to do, I want to convert this list into a tuples. Okay, let's see if that is possible. Yes, we can use something called typecasting. Okay, which we have covered yesterday. We have seen how to typecast string, and the same way we will see how to typecast here. Okay, for typecasting, it's going to change the data type of this my list. At the moment it's a list, we will change it to tuple. For that, what you just need to do is very simple. You just need to say tuple, and inside this brackets, okay, inside this brackets, inside this parenthesis, you just need to put your list name, which is called my list. Now what you need to do is that we need to create a variable to store it, or you can check the types of this you know, this data. So I would just go ahead and say call new tuple. Okay, so this is going to be holding this in data, because I need to save this data. Whatever it has converted, it has not converted the actual data, but it has created a new variable. Okay, and based on this data. So now if I just run it, it has created the variable. If I just show you the type of this variable, which is called new t, you see it is a tuple. If I want to show display the data inside this parenthesis, that means it is a tuple here. Okay, so we have seen how to convert, we have seen how to convert a tuples, we have seen how to convert list to tuples using typecasting. Okay, which is tuple, inside this parenthesis we put our list name. Okay, now I'm going to show you how we can convert a tuples into list. So for that, I would just add a new cell here. Let's start with the variable called clouds, and let's create a tuples. Okay, and inside it I'm just going to create a tuple called maybe AWS, and this is my first string. I would create one more which is going to be GCP. Okay, I would create one more which is going to be Azure. Okay, I would create one more which is called Alibaba. Okay, and I can create more, but I think 4 works fine. So clouds, we have all this you know, and this is a tuples. If you want to check, you can just click and drag your mouse here, you can see it's a tuple. Okay, even if you verify it, you can see type of this clouds, it's a tuple. Okay, now let's see how we can change this tuple to list. So for that, again, we can use typecasting. We can say tuples to list. Okay, so for that, what we will do is that we will go ahead and simply say list. Inside it, I can just give my tuples. What is my tuple? Which is cloud. Okay, you see it has converted this data into list. Now I have this, square bracket, right? I just need to store this data, so I can go ahead and say new and list, and I can just print this data again. It's now a list, and I can simply show you the type using the type functions, and you can see it has converted into list. Okay, now what problem we can solve using this typecasting? Let's say if you have a tuples and we want to change this data, which is last element, which is Alibaba, to maybe Dell technology. Okay, now if we have the data in tuples, the tuple is immutable. That means you cannot change any values once you have created it. So for that, what you can do, you can convert it into a list, and in the list you can change this Alibaba to something else, right, like Dell technology, and then you can convert it back to tuples. Okay, so that is what we will do. So this is the interview problems, and we will solve this. Okay, so let's say we have a, we have a data here, we have a tuple here. So this is a tuple, and we want to change Alibaba to Dell. Okay, Dell. So this is what we need to do, but we have the data in a tuples. Okay, let's see how we can solve it. So to solve it, first we need to convert this data. First, let's create this tuples. So tuple is created. Now let's first convert this data into list. So for that, what you can do, see, if you want to change this data in tuples, it is not going to work, because I can go ahead and say -1. This is the last element, and I can go ahead and say equals to Dell. Okay, Dell, the capital. You see, I'm getting error because object you cannot change in tuples, right? So for that, what we will do is that we will go ahead and kind of create a new, we will go ahead and convert this data into list. So for that, I would just say list of this, and inside it, I'm just going to put this cloud. Okay, now it is a list, so I'm just going to say that cloud dash list. Okay, so it has converted to list now. Okay, now I can access this last element, right? So what I can go ahead and say that cloud list, from the cloud list, if you want to see the data, I have everything. So I need the last element, so it's going to be what, 0. So that's AWS, and I need the last element, that's going to be -1. Oops, not 0. 0 is the first one. So -1, that's Alibaba, and I would say equals, that means I'm assigning in this cloud -1, that means I'm assigning what? I'm assigning Dell. Okay, so single equals means what? It's assigning, right? It's an assigning operator sign, which we have covered in the day 1. So if I now execute it, and at the end, if I just show you this result, which is cloud list, okay, you will see that the last element has changed to Dell. Okay, now I've seen how to change elements in a tuple, right? Now next task is that we need to convert it back to list, right? So now next task is that we need to convert it back to tuples, right? So for that, I can simply use something called tuple. Okay, inside the brackets, I can put this list. Okay, now this one I can store in another variable. Okay, so that I can call it, which is called, okay, now if I just show you the data types of this tuple, let me first print the result. You see, now it has converted back to what? This is cloud list tuples, and this one, if I want to show you the types, so basically the type is going to be tuple, you can see. Okay, now our problem is solved. We have converted back to tuple, and we have, instead of this Alibaba, we have now Dell. Now what I can do is that I can go ahead and say that this clouds, okay, equals what? This clouds tuple. Okay, and I want to print this cloud at the end. Oops. Okay, now you can see we have changed this successfully, Alibaba to Dell, and now even the data type of this cloud is a tuple. So this is how we can change the element from a tuple, though it is not allowed, but we can change using this approach. Now you have seen how to use a typecasting to convert list to tuple, and you have also seen how to convert tuple to list for changing elements. Okay, now let's go ahead and see the sets. Okay, now here is the definition. It says sets are defined inside the curly brackets. So for tuples we use parentheses, for list we use square bracket, and for sets we use curly brackets. Now you need to know all these brackets. This is a mandatory, so make sure to see all these brackets and name. Okay, so a set is an unordered collections of unique items. Very important concept, unique items, which you have not seen in the earlier two data structure of Python. But in set, you can see it is a collection of unordered unique items. You can have multiple items, but each item has to be unique. That means what? You cannot have a duplicates. Okay, sets do not allow duplicates elements. So three things. One is it is unordered, it is not ordered, not indexed like tuples and list, so you cannot access based on the index. Okay, the second thing is that it has to be unique items. It must have a unique items. You cannot have a duplicates on a sets. Okay, let's see some operations that you can perform in sets. So first we have which is called union. So you can combine two sets together using union. Okay, second we have intersections, which will return the common elements, and third we have which is called difference. So this is going to return the elements in one set but not to the other set. Then we have symmetric difference, which is going to return the element in either set but not in both. Okay, so let's see one by one. Okay, let's first create a set, and let's see how to create a set. Okay, for creating set I would just start with call my set, any name you can give. Okay, I'm just going to say my set. Inside it I'm going to store a data, so I would say 1 2 4. Okay, so these are the three data I am storing, 1 2 4. Okay, so this is the set, because sets are created inside this curly brackets. Okay, now if you want to see the data types of this variable, so I can simply say type of this, and you see it is a set. Okay, now the property of set says that you can only store unique elements. Even if I define one more 4, okay, you will see that is still showing as a set, but I can print the result. You will see that this 4 is going to be, it's not going to show. Okay, because not going to store that 4. You see automatically it eliminate if you add any duplicates. Okay, so that is one more definitions I can add it here. It automatically eliminate the duplicate. Okay, even if you give it while creating it. Okay, you can see it is not capturing this one because it's a duplicate. Okay, so this is how, so this is what a set does. Now I will create one more set, then we will see this different functions. Okay, so this is my set 1, and I will create one more set, that's going to be my set 2. Okay, inside this 2 I am just going to store something called 4 5 6. Okay, so 4 5 6, so both has this 4 common. Okay, now let's go ahead and run it. So two sets are created, so now we can perform some operations on it. Okay, so let's first do the union operations. So for union you just need to use this sign, which is, you can see it here. Okay, so let's go ahead and say my set 1, and for union you need to use this bar sign, and you need to say the second set. So I want to do a union between these two. Okay, so I would just go ahead and say variable call union set, and equals, inside it I will just need to put this 2. Okay, so let's enter it, let's print this union set. Okay, so you can see it has done the union, it is combining two set. Okay, so union simple definition, it combine two set, but if one of the set has a common element, that is again going to only consider one. Okay, you see here I have 4, here I have 4, so total I have 3 plus 3 6 element, but it is printing only 5 element. Why? Because it is obviously going to eliminate this duplicate, because 1 4 is going to be duplicates. Okay, so this is the union operations in set. So I would say here comment union. Okay, you have seen how union function works. Now let's go ahead and see that the second operations that I want to do is this going to be this one, which is called intersections. Okay, which is going to return only the common elements. Okay, so I have again the same, but I'm just going to give a new name called intersect set, and my set 1 and set 2 has a common element, that is 4. Okay, so I'm expecting I'm going to get 4. Let's print it. Okay, I need to change this type. So this is very important, right? I'm still using the union, so I need to change the type to this and so that is this and sign means it is the intersect between 1 and 2 set. Now see, I'm only having 4 because the 4 is the common elements in both of my set. Okay, so you have seen how to use this intersect function, and you just need to put this sign which is called this and sign. Okay, now let's see the next function which is minus, so that called difference. So it says return elements in one set but not the other set. Okay, so let's see this function. So let's say I have this which is called this. I'm just going to use this one only, but I would just change the name of this called minus. Okay, and I would just need to change the sign to minus. Okay, now here I will just print it, and if you see, it is only showing 1 and 2. Okay, now what is happening? Well, let's see. The first set we have 1 and 2, and this 4 is common, so the 4 is being deleted, which is ignored, and I'm only getting one set value which is 1 and 2. Okay, so I will not be getting anything from the second. I would not be getting anything from the second set, which is 5 and 6. Okay, so this is what this difference does. It's simply minus the matching, and it only print the first set elements. Okay, if I just change the order, so if I just change the order here and I change the order here, let's see, now it is printing 5 and 6 because again 4 is common, so 4 is being ignored, and left out, what we are left out is the 5 and 6 in the first set. Okay, so you have seen how to use this difference operations on a set, and let's go ahead and see the symmetric difference. Okay, so for that I'm just going to add a new sign, and I would just use my this to set. Okay, so I have my first set which is going to be set 1, and I have the second set. Now here you need to use this sign, okay, that you see it here. So I will just copy this sign, and I'm just going to put the sign here. Okay, so I'm saying the first set and the sign and the second set. Okay, now if you see here, it says return element either set but not both. Okay, so we can just say anything called maybe s offset, symmetric offset, s offset. Okay, let's execute it. Now what is happening here? It says it is returning 1 2 5 6. Okay, so that means whatever is not a common in both the set, it's returning that. Okay, so we have 1 in the first set, we have 2 in the first set, we have 5 in the second, and we have 6 in the second, but we have what is common. The common what you have is the 4 in both, so it's not returning 4. If you want to see the my set 1, we can see my set 1, it's returning 1 2 3 4, right? If you see the my set 2, it's going to return 4 5 6. So 4 is common, so it's just returning whatever is not common in both the set. Okay, so these are the 4 operations we have using the set. Now again, the property to remember in set that datas are not indexed, so you cannot access based on index, and also you cannot add duplicates. Okay, I have already shown you how you cannot add duplicates because it's going to automatically delete the duplicates. And if you want to see the index, so let's say I have my set, and from the my set, let's say I want to access 0. So you see it's saying that set object is not, I mean, it doesn't support, right? If you want to see dot index, you will see it doesn't have a dot index even functions. Okay, if you see the set functions, you can see all the set functions that we have. Okay, copy, clear, again does the same thing. Some more functions like pop, remove. Okay, so you can see it here, remove an element from a set, it must be member. Okay, so if you want to remove something, that element must be a member. So let's say I want to remove something. Okay, so here you can see it accept int, because in this set I have the int data types. By default it knows the data types. Okay, so I would go ahead and say that I want to remove 2, and let me just print it, my set. Okay, now see it has already removed it. I need to first of all create it again, fortunately. So I would say my set of this, and 1 2 and 4. Okay, so now if I just now run it, I have in the my set, I have all these 4 elements. Okay, now let's say I want to remove this 2 from my set, and at the same time I want to print it. Okay, so you can only execute it once, because once 2 is gone you cannot remove it again. Okay, so we can say, you see 2 is gone. Okay, so this is what this remove function does. One more thing that I will show you with an example. Let's say I'm saying my set, and inside my set I am storing maybe something called 1 2 4, and I'm storing a string called iPhone. Okay, 15. So if you see my set, okay, so you can see we can store different data types, that is fine, but we cannot store duplicates. Okay, So I would just try to store one more iPhone. You will see the second iPhone is not accepting by this set. Okay, so the things that is about set is that very simple. It is unordered collections of unique item. Set do not allow duplicates, but you can store different data types. Okay, so let's add one more line. We can say we can store different data types. Okay, but duplicates are not allowed. Okay, so that was our last modules for the day. Now let's go ahead and do the project that we have it here. So this is the project. Let's read the project first. Okay, now if you're still watching this video till here, I would really request you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also make sure to download all these resources from the video descriptions, from where you can download all the resources and you can practice and solve all of this problem. And also every day, and I am including 10 plus exercise question and also some project which you can do by yourself once you go through the video to, which is going to clear your concept for the day. Okay, so let's see the project now. It says create a simple grocery list manager where user can add items, view list, okay, view list, and remove duplicates. Okay, using set functions. Obviously the set function is going to remove the duplicates. Now there are some steps. It says ask the user to input grocery items separating by comma. Okay, and it says store this item in a list, which we will do. Convert this list to a set to remove these duplicates. Display the updated unique grocery list. Okay, let's go ahead and do this project. Okay, so for that I am again going to use a Python file. So that is going to be in my home directory here. Right click and I would say grocery project, and file type I want, it's a Python file, so py. Okay, so that's a Python file. Now if you see, a Python file has created. So here I'm just going to put my definitions, the explanations of the projects, like what this project does and how it does. Okay, so mini project, and the project name is grocery manager. Okay, so in the Python file this comments are not being printed. Okay, so this is just for me to understand like what is going on in the code. Now for this is only you add this comment. Okay, if you add a single line comments, you simply use hash. Okay, now let's say grocery list manager, the function that we will create, and create a simple grocery list manager where user can add items, okay, view the list, and remove the duplicates. Okay, so first let's take input, because first we need to take the input from the user grocery list. Okay, so for that what we will say is that we will say asking for items, right? We will first ask the item using input functions which we have learned in the day one. So I would say please enter items name separating by comma. Okay, so this is fine. This is going to ask for the item name separating by comma. Okay, this is the first thing. We now need to store this in, data. So I would store into a variable called items. Okay, so I have stored inside this items variable. Now this items variable is going to be what? This item variable is going to be string, because you see the data type is showing as a string, because now input function always take data as a string. We have covered this in the day one and day two. Now I would first convert this into a list. Okay, so for that I can simply go ahead and say that list, and inside it I can put this input, which is items. Okay, now here I'm going to say this items underscore list. Okay, so that means this item is converted into list. So I can just go ahead and say that item converted into list. Okay, now why we're converting into list is that because we cannot convert string into set. Okay, but we can convert list into set. Okay, so I would simply use that typecasting here to convert this list to a set. Okay, so for that you just need to say set, and inside the set you can simply go ahead and give your this list, which is called items list. So this is going to remove all the duplicates, and then we can show the result. So we can say show unique items list. Okay, so we can simply say print, and we can just add a nice message call, thank you for entering items, here is your unique list of items. Okay, Now we will be using simple f formatting to add this data. So this is going to set is going to convert the data back to what, into a set. That's going to delete this data, so delete the duplicates. So I am just going to name it call items unique. Okay, so now I would just need to print this result. Okay, so end of function. Let's now go ahead and test this function. So we will first start with some item name. So let's create some items. So I'm just going to add some item here, and I would say tomato, and I would say chili, and I would say sauces, and I would say bread, and I would say milk. Okay, so these are some product I have. Now I am going to add some product duplicates to see if our function can remove this duplicate. Okay, I see I'm adding milk few times, and I'm going to add tomato. So this may be sauces a few times. Okay, so to test it, we can just right click on it, and you just say run file in terminal. Okay, so if you just execute it, you can see now here it is asking for what, it is asking for please enter item name separating by commas. Okay, so here we would just need to give the items name separating by comma. So we will give first item name. I'm just going to copy this name from here. Okay, so let's copy it and paste it here. Okay, I need to just press enter because I have entered multiple names separating by comma. So let's go ahead and enter it. Now you can see thank you for entering the items. Here is your unique list item. Now we are getting A, C, M. Okay, some problems. So let's verify it, what is happening here. Okay, so to debug it, so first see I am just taking this user input. Okay, so where user is entering the items separating by comma. Okay, but if you see here what is happening, the user is adding the items, so each items are separated by comma, right? So one comma, but there are some space which is user is adding. So we first need to deal with this space, and we need to deal with this comma. Okay, so what is happening, I have done some mistakes, so let's first fix it. Okay, so here I'm saying item list. Okay, and I am saying that this item I'm converting this string into list. So first of all, I cannot convert this string into list. Okay, so there is a way I can convert it, but I cannot directly typecast a string into list. I was wrong. So for that, what I will need to do is that I would need to use something called split functions. Okay, so split function, using the split functions I can convert it into a list. So for that, again, these things I have covered in the day one. So let's go ahead and now fix it. So here what I will do is that I am going to say that this items. Okay, and I would first use the strip functions to remove all the extra spaces, and then I would say split. Okay, split based on what, based on this call comma. Okay, so the comma is delimiters, so I am expecting that user is entering each item by this comma. Now this is going to return what, this is going to return us the item that is converted back to list. So if you want to just test it, I can just comment out everything, and here I can just go ahead and print this result, which is called item list. Okay, so let's say I want to check it, I would say print of item list, and I would just try with this, which is called this functions. So let's go ahead and kind of right click, run in terminal. Okay, it is again asking for the end items, so let's enter the item. Now you can see we are getting this result. This time the result is a list. Okay, you can see this is inside this square bracket. So now what we can do is that we can convert it back to a set. Okay, because list you can do a typecast into set. So for that, what I am going to do is that here I'm going to say typecasting. Let's enable it. So it's going to typecast this, whatever the list I got it, that's into set. Okay, and then I want to show the result. Okay, and I want to test with the same product. So let's go ahead and kind of say again, run into terminal. So it is asking again the data, which is I'm going to enter the same data. Okay, so now you can see I am getting the product. Okay, so as a you can see I am getting the result here, which is thank you for, this is my result. Okay, let me just clear the terminal. Okay, so that it is going to be easy for you to understand. So I would just go ahead and say this print I need to remove. Okay, because I don't want to show this. Go ahead and run this in terminal. So I would say run in terminal, and it is asking for the item name. You can see it here. So let's enter the item name. So I'm adding some duplicates, which is milk, sauces multiple time. Let's press enter, and you can see my result. It's called thank you for entering the items, which is my message. This is one. and your unique list of items. Okay, and you can see potato, tomato, milk, chili, sauces, bread. Okay, so I don't have any duplicates. Now you can see it here, I have the bread, but I don't have any duplicates. Okay, so this is how we have solved the problem. All right, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. If you really like this content, do subscribe to my channel. Have a good day, take care, bye bye, take care.